Sorry, I want to start by saying that at the University of Nairobi, we are committed to the use of technology to deliver our curriculum in a cost-effective manner, and also to add that as a university, we continue to invest handsomely in the expansion of our infrastructure, STEM, at STEAM. STEAM. Just recently got grants from the World Bank to upgrade our engineering equipment and laboratories. And also, next 2 years, we are going to have the latest science and engineering complex to expand the teaching and build more capacity engineering and science subjects at university. This is the support of French funding agency and French government. We are alive to the fact that resource constraints that bedevil education programs, especially science STEM programs, because of the investment that are required for the delivery of these programs. We are also allowed to the fact that there are still a lot of stereotypes on open education, which we need to overcome as practitioners and as stakeholders in the education sector. When he was talking about model, that came to mind about the agreements that we had before we agreed to structure the ODEL platform, because there were a good number of faculty members which have stereotypes. So talking about the university, Professor Bunga alluded to this. Our vision is to be a global university, transforming society. And our mission is to provide quality university education that embodies the aspiration of the Kenyan people and the global community through teaching, research, innovation, and community service. Just a quick rundown of the figures. We are the top ranked university in Kenya and one of the top ranked universities in Africa. We have 10 faculties. Faculties are the centers where we both teaching and learning, but also research within those 10 faculties. Our student population is 5,000. We have undergraduate student population of around 30,000, postgraduate of 10,000, international students of about 1,600. We have very many international collaborations, also 1,000. The teaching staff ratio to staff is 60-40, and our international staff at the university is around 90. Our internationalization goals include enhancing student and faculty mobility. We also strive to be the leader in fostering innovation, entrepreneurship, and industrial linkages. Another goal is to enhance mutual beneficial partnerships with those collaborations. We also want to become multicultural, inclusive, diverse institution. Another goal is also to attract and nurture local and local talents to build up capacity for excellence. And finally, build a university that provides solutions for global challenges. We will not go to definition of those concepts, but why do universities and institutions collaborate or enter into partnership? One reason why we enter into this one is, of course, to create increased revenue. Another reason why we collaborate with other institutions is to market our institutions and brand them. The other one is also to position ourselves for global impact. If, for example, these partners that we have on open education, open university, we could easily brand ourselves as making impact by giving more access to facilitating people to have access to quality education. We also partner with industry also for knowledge transfer to the communities. and also for scholarly opportunities. When we collaborate, we get opportunities through projects. We can get scholarships for students, and also find fellowship programs among the partner institutions. Universities that also manage collaborations and partnerships also enhance their competitiveness in the market. And of course, when you do all this, the impact is enhanced institutional brand. In terms of the forms, types of collaborations that we have at University of Nairobi, one such collaborations, student and faculty collaborations, where we are both going and coming students. This is done also to encourage cultural understanding between we are a global society and a global world, so we need to enhance cultural understanding between different communities. And programs like that also help us hold joint workshops today here for STEM, for train also faculty and students, but also to enhance our capacity to do joint grant proposal writing and also train postgraduate students and faculty in grant proposal writing. Opportunity like this one where we are today is also to share best teaching and research experiences. Doing this today, and also on student and faculty, we also make provisions to give students, enable students to transfer their credits just to another, so that they enjoy benefits of global citizens without being encumbered by the borders. Also under faculty and student mobility programs, we also do thesis and project supervisions and offer opportunities for scholarship for student staff. We have a number of international supported collaborations with many universities in this program, almost many universities. I don't want to go to any of them. We specifically engage in a program, a number of European universities on a program called POI, Collaborative Online International Learning, where students undertake online learning, collaborative efforts with different universities. And of course, I know ASTE is also running open universities forum platform for sharing experiences like this. For such programs, of course, we have also mobility programs with other universities, America, Washington State University, Helsinki, Europe, and many others. Then also partnerships for us is joint and double degree programs. Joint and double degree programs are different. So the programs prepare students for better academic and capabilities. These programs are mostly prepared by students who are very ambitious. This enables the students to gain qualification from different institutions and enhance their employability. They are stable also for students aspiring global leaders or international. Double degree program students, the way they are programmed, and we were aware of this, we are faculty, students will spend 2 years in one institution or 2 years in another, and students get 2 separate diplomas or degrees. But for joint degree students, receive a single diploma or degree certificate containing skills or skills and support institutions. In both cases, the students pay the corresponding institution or the institution only for the time spent in that institution. We don't double charge students, so we allow students, if they are paid in one university, they are able to just take their, if you are partners, or students come to a university, you don't double charge them for the tuition. They only take pay for accommodation and other health cost, administrative cost. We have such partners in Washington State University, Helsinki, Cape Town, and Stellenbosch. Other partnership that we have is in industry academic collaborations, where we onboard companies in curriculum and teaching. We sign agreements with industry for apprenticeship, in order to foster partnership with investors and capitalists for research and also develop startups. Such collaborations also, through such programs, as we intend to support, we have prioritized jobs through such collaborations, and also in artificial intelligence. Good examples is the Kantaria Agricultural Technology Innovation Center in Kabete, where we collaborate in developing agricultural innovations and taking them to the market. Then there's also a collaboration we have with Thama, a global artificial intelligence company. They're developing a lab at the University of Nairobi to train the students on the latest technology. We have an industry collaboration with Unilever on a Quest program, Millet Quest program. And also we have an agreement with on science and engineering complex with the French multinational companies and also French Consortium University of Paris to enhance STEM at the University of Nairobi. In terms of research collaborations, we have academic research funded programs, academic research funded by partners. And the goal of this is to enhance, to expand frontier of knowledge and the dissemination thereof. Our faculties make applications jointly with other institutions or among themselves as in thematic groups to apply for funding. We also, in this category, have government funding in certain thematic priorities. And this ones go through NRF and ACOSTI. And we also have collaborations with research institutes and think tank organizations for policy research. These include collaborations with KIPRA, GALRO, KBS, etc. And we also have inter-university research collaborations. These such of collaborations also provide us with the opportunity for joint publication and for dissemination of research outcomes. Cross-cultural collaborations. I had mentioned earlier that cross-cultural collaboration is also very important. The impact on faculty and students on students and faculty. At the University of Nairobi, we have a number of cultural and language centers that offer, help us to understand the world better and more people from outside the globe better. We have the Confucius Institute at the University of Nairobi. We have the Portuguese Cameos Center. We have Korean Center and many other intercultural centers that here they organize cultural activities, language education, and immersion programs. We also organize sports and games amongst our institutions in Kenya, but also sports and games with other institutions across the borders. We create and maintain international alumni networks from these partnerships. For example, we have cultural immersion programs yearly with Soka University. We also have cultural immersions with Tajiri Normal University every year. Somebody has logged in. Universities and universities also collaborate to mentor one another. University of Nairobi, we have entered into agreements with different universities. Like now we are mentoring Koitalel University. We also signed agreement with Masinde Muliro University, Faculty of Health Science, to mentor them on health sciences. And currently we are also mentoring National Defense University of Kenya on technology and also helping them to set up ICT infrastructure. And also we can also among ourselves help in establishing new programs, work among ourselves, establish new programs share labs among ourselves, and also share faculty, endowment chairs or faculty chairs. Collaborations with bilateral or multilateral institutions. We have collaborations with multilateral institutions for provision of scholarships, targeting provision of scholarships. We have DAAD, British Council, African Economic Research Consortium, and many other embassies in Kenya that we work with in order to provide scholarships to needy areas like STEM. We also work with those multilateral and bilateral agencies to build infrastructure, USAID, DANIDA, GIZ, and also to enhance cultural and international relations. Networks and alliances, we are in different networks and alliances. Among the peers, we are peers in research in Qatar, Center for Advanced Research Training in Africa, a consortium of 8 African universities that specialize in that promote research, intensive research through building capacities. We are members of the African Research University Alliance, which many of the universities from Africa, Kenya and Africa are. We are also members of the Afritech network, African University Engineering and Technology Universities, about 10 universities in Africa. This network is supposed to enhance sharing of research resources and also to promote engineering and research and innovations among those universities. We are also members of RUFORAM, Agriculture Network for Agricultural Universities in Africa, 85-member university in Africa. Collaborations with the industry, professional bodies is also very important. Professional bodies, for example, IEK, Institute of Engineers, the Medical Practitioners Body, and all this. I want to finish there, and thank you very much for listening to me, and welcome to the University of Nairobi once again.
Thank you very much, John, for the presentation. Now, allow me to invite Professor Justus Munyoki to give his presentation.
So, thank you very much, members. I think this the screen there is off, so I don't know. Do I just talk?
You can start off as we get the technician.
Okay. Let me just.
Somebody's coming to work on.
Okay, just 1 minute. So thank you very much, members present. As I said before, I'm director in charge of research, innovations and enterprise at the University of Nairobi. Much of what we do is related to also what John has presented about collaboration. So there will be a little bit of overlap, but I'll try to avoid that as much as possible. Yes, we appreciate that the University of Nairobi, being the oldest, is renowned for the robust research, the research culture that we have built over the years, and the extensive contribution to the various fields of knowledge. That is how I wanted to open my presentation by appreciating a central role by the university. In fact, I want to say that our comprehensive research framework includes quite significant outputs. Diverse funding sources, multifaceted research activities, effective dissemination of strategies, and substantial societal impact. You will not go to any part of this country, Kenya, and fail to see researchers from the University of Nairobi undertaking various projects. You will not go to any ministry in this country and you don't find some team from the University of Nairobi assisting, particularly in the Ministry of Education, where we are also heavily involved in terms of finding solutions to do with our research, to do with our education system, and so on. So this is important for us who are here to appreciate that role. We don't work alone in this, we work with other universities as well. And, so should I now? Now I can project. Okay. Okay, we just allow a minute. I think we can connect these things just as more. This is technology. Earlier on, I kept on switching off my speaker here. Then I realized it was controlled because I will see it come on. Then I switch off. Then it comes on again. I realized it was controlled. Then I realized that the physics was going off when I switched off. So they are interconnected. So I'm being controlled from there. Even now, my presentation is being controlled from somewhere there. So we give a bit of minutes for further instructions. Post it. What can you do? What can you do? Because I can't. Okay. Okay, we'll be instructed when it comes to that time. It's coming. Oh, now it is almost there. Okay. So maybe I just continue. Okay, do I try again? Why is it disabled? Can I have your water? Almost there in a minute. We're almost there. Yes, there we are. So we want to say again that research is done we do research in various areas. We start with our postgraduate research, a lot of research, given that we have a very high number of our postgraduate students. In fact, we graduate over 140 to 150 students per year, PhD alone, not counting the master's students. And all those theses, they publish, they are required by the Commission for University Education and by our requirements that before you graduate, you publish. So a lot of work every year comes out of our postgraduate students, both master's level and PhD level. We do have a lot of research taking place among our university staff. One of our indicators of performance is the research output from our teaching staff. So we require that staff do research through the year, many of them funded by various agencies through the grants that we are writing continuously through our teaching staff. We have indeed, in addition to the 10 faculties, we have very specialized research units, research centers. Currently, 14 of them headed by research directors. And these cut across from STEM to the STEAM. A number of them there in the arts, the soft sciences, social sciences as well, and the law, including law, of course. As a result, members, we get a lot of outputs in various ways, key among them being publications, journal articles. A lot of them, I'll give some figures perhaps. Conference papers across the year. We have policy briefs, books and book chapters, innovations and intellectual property. And this is very important aspect in terms of where we can measure and do measure our performance in terms of research. It's very indicative when you look at the numbers that we have here. I want to say, if we are to give some numbers, for example, in support of what John already presented, that we have every week we release funding opportunities across the whole university, people to apply, and we guide them, our staff and all that. This year alone, if we look at January to June, we were able to share 119 funding opportunities. This is done every week. Every Thursday afternoon, a call goes out there. Sometimes we make personalized follow-ups with researchers to lead these teams. As a result of this, quite a number of those that are done by researchers, some of them, because very competitive process, you all know this, quite a number of them are able to go through. We can say that this half year alone, January to June, we are able to have our researchers prepare and submit like 3 out of those that we sent out, being able to win new grants, that 2 of them totaling over 660 million shillings in the last half a year. These are absolute figures, but we also look at what our neighbors are doing. Some of them doing slightly better than us, but I can say out of these figures, we are among the top in terms of this effort. This half a year alone, we've been able to see over 360 publications in various reference journals go through. And we continue almost on a weekly basis to monitor the progress. We have targets for the year, and so we are in the right direction. 27 intellectual properties were filed with the various institutes that are responsible for registration. KIPI, and the Kenya Copyright Board, KECOBO. So undergoing those processes, and here again we assist our researchers so that they go beyond just the papers. Can we start to go to the next level where we can have some that can be applied there, the IPs. We have, and again this is important, every year, what we call the annual research week. We encourage all our researchers to come together through their faculties, and we bring together largely in 1 week. In this case, the month of October has been dedicated for that. This year will be there from 28th of October to 1st of November. Already with over 17 conferences registered saying will come. A few of them fall outside that week, so this coming month of August, we are going to have 2 conferences, both from the Faculty of Health Sciences. Last month, we had one from engineering, the month of June. Today we are here again, we recognize the presence of today's workshop. We list all this and we say, yes, they're involved in all this. We also annually have annual Nairobi Innovation Week. At the month of April or May, this year we end it in the second week of May 2024. So I want to welcome all of us who are here again, including those from Europe, because ours are blended and all that. Come join us in October. You know, these as guest speakers and everything like that. So this is something that we are very proud to be associated with. John has already talked about the collaborations, and John presents very well. We are very heavily present globally. So many agreements being signed every week, every month by various institutions across the world. And we call them strategic partners, because we don't just partner with anybody. We ask, how strategic are you to us? There are many who would like to collaborate with us, to have agreements, but we don't just pick any. So if somebody is listed here, or 90 is listed here, we say that must be a strategic partner. There are not so many, so these are numbers that have been very carefully selected. You can see across the globe. Well, largely Africa, 40% of our collaborations will be found around Africa, African institutions, and so on. But in Europe, 34% of them are there. And in the US, especially the North America, USA and Canada, 19%, and then the rest of the world. Even in the Eastern world, Asia, 6% of our collaborations are there. So again, we have researchers represented in all these parts of the world. And that is where we are, and that is where we say we are really a global university. You see the presence of this university all over the world, wherever you go. Yes, again, the partnerships, the consortia, we belong to some of the best consortia in the world. Here in Africa, led by ARUA, consortia currently with the 24 Africa. There used to be around 17, but in the last 1 year, there's been a lot of interest in this, and therefore we now have up to 24. Last month, they were here in Africa, in Nairobi. We hosted this team here for a 2-day workshop. ARUA Research Universities, and through this we have been able to link with Europe, because again Europe is also very strong through what we call the guild, and together we are now able to advance our research so much. We have the RUF Forum, we have CATA, which John you explained quite well in terms of what we are doing at the moment. This is really supporting us, including now as we talk, there are a lot of quite a number of engagements going on to do with CATA. We are members of the African Association of Universities. We are members of the Association of Common Universities, the World University Network, and all these. And there are many. And these are helping us a lot in terms of connecting us to the world. Now, one area that I was asked to mention is the issue of ethical concerns in research. How are we doing it at the University of Nairobi? And I think members present, you know that ethics in research is very important dimension. We're asking people to publish. We're asking people to go for funds. How ethical are our practices? So we in the University of Nairobi are very deliberate about that, and we try to uphold the highest standards. In fact, this has been mentioned in our strategic plan, the current one. We are saying we want to advance this. We are not just going to do research, we want to uphold the highest standards of ethical standards, values. We have a research policy. When you go through the clauses of all that, there is a lot to do with doing the right things. Not just doing research, but upholding certain standards. And here again, the university, together with the KNH, Kenyatta National Hospital, we have a committee that is called the ERC, Ethics and Research Committee, which monitors how our researchers are doing. Before they go out there, they are required to submit the proposals to say, how are you going to prepare data? How are you going to question people? How are you going to just make sure that you are doing the right thing without causing harm or without injuring anybody or without infringing to the rights of those you are engaged in? And this ERC has served us quite well. But as we have said, yes, you can see it linking up with the KNH, mainly focusing on the health of the human beings. When you go to the FET faculty, again, you find more or less a similar thing, focusing on the rights of animals. When you are doing research on animals, are you upholding their rights as animals? Are you subjecting them to treatments that will be seen to be unfair as far as the animal rights are concerned? And so this is being advanced also in our strategic plan to see how can faculties that are mainly social sciences and humanities, how can they also be part of this? How can they feel that they are being treated fairly? Sometimes they say, we don't deal with the patients. This ERC seems to be more about patients and people in the wards. What about the people, the customers? For me, I'm a professor of marketing, and deal with customers who are not sick in town, in houses. As I follow them, what are the issues that I need to know about them? And so this is very important to us as a university. So we still have some concerns, members, even here in the university, and I think it applies to other universities that are here and the institutions. Our students, sometimes they will submit work, and if as a supervisor you don't check carefully, you will find that this work is not so original. This is an ethical concern in terms of research. Where did it come from? Our students are required to submit published work. You can't graduate and do so. There is that element of urgency. And in the publishing, you find the pressure there. And sometimes the work that goes out there, you later look at it and you realize that perhaps does not seem to meet that standard, the international standards. Where are we? Are we able to go there? Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 level of publishing. Which level are we in? The other concern we have is publishing journals that are not very strong. Journals that are not indexed in high-impact journals. Sometimes we call them print-to-print journals. Look at them, the process you submit today and then tomorrow papers. Can say, Mwalimu, I published. Please, I want to graduate. When did you submit? Yesterday. When was it published? Today. So, what do you do? The student said, I paid for it. It's my right to graduate. So you look at that process, and that becomes an issue. Where is the editorial? We sometimes search, random search. Then you find the paper, even they using .yahoo, something like that. The email address for this journal. Who are the editors? You find that they belong to one department, all of them. And the student perhaps belongs to the same department. And the supervisor is one of the editors. So some of these things are issues of concern that we are handling. Because in the University of Nairobi, we also have journals based in the departments and the faculties, and we are going through them one by one just to screen them and look at how do they compare with the rest of the world. And I'm happy to say that now we have an editorial board, for example, for the policy briefs that comprise people from across the whole of East Africa, helping us so that when you get this, we can go through that and then we ask them to supervise. We have actually trained reviewers in this university to look at some of the documents that our students are writing. So we use several instruments to check on this. For example, selection of supervisors. These one guiding the students, how many students, workload and all that is being checked very closely. We monitor and we even give guidelines in terms of how many times, how frequent should you engage with your students so that the students are not just there, and that begins to be part of the monitoring the quality of the process that is going through. Submission of regular reports from the supervisor to the university. We have a research policy. This was revised actually last year. It has been there for over 10 years, but we revised it last year. We have a plagiarism policy, which again guides on all this, and this is a compliance issue. There are no shortcuts to this. Then we have, of course, the ERC, among many other instruments that we are trying to use to monitor this. So thank you very much for that, Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the insights that you have given about research, and also John's presentation, which was broadly covering what we do at the University of Nairobi. Colleagues, we want to open it up for maybe 2-3 minutes so that if there are any issues of clarification which we may want to seek from the two presenters, then we can pick those ones up before we go to the next presentation. Let me see if there is any of us who may want to make any intervention. Okay, it appears we are happy. Then we move on with the next presentation. So I want to invite Jane to lead us in a discussion on the background of the Open Societal Challenge Program, and also to outline the research methodology that we intend to use in this framework. Jane, I hope it's not too cold.
No,
Okay.
no, I keep telling everyone, if you think it's cold here. I mean, it's midsummer in the
Okay.
UK. Is
Then
it
I don't know
okay-
if you may want to move over there.
Is it
or
okay
you
if
want
I
to
speak
present from here?
Yeah, because Jane,
Okay.
Jane D is
Go ahead.
is working the slides.
Go ahead.
So once again, and I hope the slides are coming up, it's a privilege to be here. While my colleague Jane D is loading our slides, then I'll start by, I hope, making just a few positive remarks about our own university, the Open University. There'll only be a few. And the first one is that for those of you who are not familiar with the Open University UK, because we're not the only open university in the room, then we have somewhere between 180,000 and 200,000 students at any one time. That being said, our campus is extraordinarily quiet because it is only the PhD students who are actually on campus. And the rest of our students are dispersed around the nation and around the world. And so, what I hope that gives rise to is, for us, a level of insight into education at scale. And part of the reason that we have been interested in working with partners in different parts of the world is that other universities are interested in education at scale. Our interest in developing technologies is a part of that education at scale, but I'm picking on insights from speakers already this morning. one of the reasons why we quite often work with national governments is because education systems need to operate at scale. And so we are thinking about large-scale solutions. And so I offer that as a kind of insight. The school that Jane D, and I'm Jane C, if you remember, belong to, is one school in one of the 4 faculties in the university, and it has between 21 and 24,000 students in it at any one time, which does make it, in the UK, the size of a usual university. It is education, childhood, youth and sports. And I'm only offering that as an insight because I think there's been talk already about some of the binaries, the way that we categorize types of specialization, both at school level and in tertiary education. There's been interesting dialogue already this morning about the social sciences on the one hand and STEM on the other hand, and that's an interesting binary. And again, from our colleague, the introduction of the arts as a kind of trinary, if you like, a third of those binaries. I think one of the, just to be absolutely honest, I am an educationalist, so I think I'm like Prof. Caroline, I'm like Prof. Anne. We are on the social sciences side of that divide, if divide there is. And one of the things I say about my role in our own university in terms of leading a project that combines education and STEM is that even within our separate faculties in the Open University, it feels like separate worlds at times. You know, they do things differently over there to the way that we do things here. But isn't that the fascination? You know, isn't that the excitement? Bringing worlds together in new ways is, I think, part of the excitement of innovation and the excitement of technology. I think, again, something to say about our role, Jane's and my role here today, and our role in Open University as part of the work that we're talking about today, is a selfish role. And I want to explain to you what that is. And that is, we want to learn from you. I think, and I will speak broadly about, I don't know what you call it, the global north or the Western world, has been too ready to come in and talk as though they know the answers to things. I think it's waking up to the fact that Africa, Kenya, Ghana have a lot to teach us about technology, about innovation and learning. And so we are speaking to your continental agendas, the African Union agenda of science, technology and innovation, the African Union agenda of citizens in Africa who are self-determining. I was at the conference, the African Council of Distance Education Conference in MMUST in March this year, and Professor Olufemi Peters of NOUN, which is the National Open University of Nigeria, another open university, sent out a very strong challenge, which is, in his words, Africa is tired of being consumers of technology and consumers of innovation. Africa wants to be producers of technology and producers of innovation. And what we want to do is to support you and ourselves in moving that agenda forward, so that we are learning on both sides, if it is a divide, of that divide. I'm picking up on another insight which was about journals, which was about, the academic voice being reported. When I'm not, and my heart is so much in Open STEM Africa, but when I'm not involved in Open STEM Africa, I lead one of the doctoral programs at the Open University for both PhD and for the doctorate in education. And one of the things is that we have a large number of international students who come over to do PhDs at the Open University. And one of the things that I find myself talking to them about is, and I'll put it frankly, how little some of them regard the academic voice from their own region. How little that they draw on journals, articles, research, publications from their own context. And I think it is changing, but it is changing slowly. And so there are things for all of us to learn. I think one of the things that's exciting about the demographic in Africa is the fact that your population is continuing to rise means almost that there is that impetus for science and innovation, which in some ways is not so marked in other parts of the world. Many of the innovations that we have worked on in partnership with countries and universities and organizations in Africa are because there's a pressure to find new ways, and particularly in something like OpenSTEM Africa, where physical resources of providing science laboratories, both at upper secondary and at tertiary level, are becoming increasingly difficult. In Ghana, where OpenSTEM Africa really began and continues, both at upper secondary level and at university level, then Ghana introduced a free upper secondary school policy in 2017. And so their upper secondary population has exploded. So finding the infrastructure to keep a STEM agenda moving forward is difficult. And that, as the students move on from upper secondary into tertiary level education, is following that pressure into tertiary level. But I think as well, and again it was an insight from earlier today, there is again, a challenge between the elitism of university education previously and moves to a kind of a more massification of education at tertiary level. And many countries in the world, my own included, the UK, are still unsure as to where they want to pitch that level of university and graduate specialism. Earlier remarks from today talked about the fact that the low participation in STEM is not a Kenya problem, it's not a Ghana problem, it's a global problem. And there are reasons, and we want to find out the reasons why young people in general are not encouraged to move into STEM subjects and into STEM careers. Gender has been mentioned about one particular group, but it's even wider than the gender divide. Marginalized groups, low-income groups, rural groups, but in general participation in STEM is not at the level that national agendas in Africa, in Europe, in North and South America wanted to be. Okay, if I go on then quickly, OpenSTEM Africa at the tertiary level is a partnership. It's a partnership of 5 universities. And you've been very kind, Prof. Anne and other speakers, about mentioning the fact that the Open University UK is giving a small amount of funding for this first 12 months of what we hope is a much longer project. But it is a partnership, and I hope we are conceptualizing it as a partnership of equals, a partnership where the voices are equal, and a partnership where we're exploring the challenges of working together across those social sciences and STEM divides and across different national contexts. Just very quickly, one of the things that we've been struggling with through Workshop 1 is to find an ethical framework that actually can be applied across 5 institutions who, as we all know, institutions make their own ethical frameworks and there are national contexts for ethics as well. But it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge to be thinking about that. Okay, if we go on, then the current 12-month project, as it says up here, is funded by the Open University UK, and that is what we're calling phase 1. But what we hope to learn from this 12 months is evidence which will underpin a major funding proposal That is one of the planned outcomes, as well as, and I mentioned this here, policy briefs, conference papers, workshop reports, podcasts, blogs. We really want to make outputs from this work. But to be absolutely clear, phase 2, and we have, and I say we, perhaps I mean I, have my eye on a particularly large tranche of Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office funding, FCDO funding, which is focused on gender empowerment in STEM at higher education level. But most importantly, I think, for me, is that it will have to be led by one of our partner universities. It will not be led by the Open University UK. And I want to tell you how thrilled we are about that. So phase 2 would be 2 to 3 years, not just of research, but actually, possibly of development, more technological development. And it could include digital materials, we talked about that. It could include virtual applications. It could include ways of addressing the shortcomings in the resourcing of STEM, and in particular in the sciences at tertiary level as they exist at the moment. And then we have planned, but it's just a plan at the moment, a phase 3 where we disseminate more widely and we take these ideas out to a much larger group of universities. And again, one of the insights from the ACDE conference at MMUST in March was how many universities across Africa, because at MMUST, the ACDE conference, vice-chancellors from across Africa were present, how excited they are with some of these ideas that we're piloting up here today. Okay, I'd like to stop there and hand over to my colleague Jane Dee, who is going to talk about, I think possibly with Prof. Raphael's help, but about the research methodology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane Cullen, and thank you very much to everyone who is here. Observing all protocol, I will get into talking about the research design and methodology for this first phase of the study. So just to give a brief background, as Jane C. has just emphasized, really, the background to this research design is coming from the process of building a partnership across 5 institutions who are in 3 different locations. So that's Ghana, Kenya, and the United Kingdom. And I think when we're talking about building a partnership, as Jane has highlighted, it's really, in this instance, it's about how does the global north and the global south work together. Now, I've heard people using the term developing countries. We prefer to use global south and global north because we do believe that the term developing can be a bit reductive. So how do these different contexts work together, and how do these different institutions work together? And a part of that is also that we are also intending to come up with outputs that talk about the process of building a partnership. So we're not just doing the research, but amongst the core team members of this project, we have talked at length about capturing this process, because many times researchers from the global north will come and research, and these collaborations happen, but there's very little that is written about what was the process of arriving at these outputs. And so this is something that we're also interested in capturing, the benefits, the challenges, how we arrive at all these things. And so what we've done as part of this process is that we went through workshop 1, which was, we had 6 sessions with all the colleagues from the 5 institutions, University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana, University of Nairobi, and Kenyatta University, and the Open University. And we're working together to try and attempt to co-develop an ethical framework. And I think Jane has spoken about that. We also work to identify some of the key stakeholders. And I'm very happy to see all the people who are here. I know some were not able to be here, but this to us is a success, is one of the things that we wanted to do. We also work together to co-develop and define the research questions, the research design, and the instruments that were to be used. Now, as part of furthering this agenda of building a partnership and co-developing research, what we've also done is we've set up inter-university groups with colleagues from the different institutions coming together to form subgroups which focus on specific areas of research of interest in this study. For example, we have a gender group. I think Prof. N is also part of that group. We have a technology group. Dr. Kennedy is in that group as well. We have the learning group. We have, I think Jay Cullen is leading that one. And then we have the qualitative research group being led by Prof. Raphael, and the quantitative research group being led by Dr. Chris Kwa from the UCC. And as you can see, the whole idea of it is to encourage closer collaboration so that it's not just something that we are talking about, but actively implementing. And the group leads as well are distributed across the institutions. And so as I've said, that the purpose is to focus on specific aspects of the research and also take it further. I think it was, sorry, I've forgotten the name again.
Munyoki, my name.
Yes. You spoke about the importance of producing some outputs from this process here. So we also intend for these groups to produce tangible outputs based on the area of specialty, to take the work further and to find other ways of disseminating the results of this study. So the rationale of this study is that there could be some systemic, we identified that there could be some systemic issues that are related to preparing science students. And this would involve a range of issues, including the attitudes towards the teaching and learning of sciences. I think someone mentioned that sometimes, for example, some female students may think that science is very hard, but we also want to understand why there's that discrepancy. Yet when they actually do excel, they are some of the best engineers, for example. So what are these attitudes? What is the issue with access to teaching and learning resources and infrastructure? What's the state? What are the delivery strategies that are there? What is the motivation level and content knowledge and competency level among some of the things that we're interested in? We also, the other rationale is that there are innovative strategies. Are there any innovative strategies, homegrown perhaps, that can be used in the preparation of science learners? I think JC has highlighted that we are also wanting to learn as a foreign institution from Africa. And Africa is a leader in many other ways. And I do believe that there are solutions that can be homegrown that apply to this context. So are there some socioeconomic and environmental friendly strategies that we can use in the preparation of science learners? And are these strategies also sustainable? So it's not about just getting a one-off thing that we can do right now, but sustainability for generations to come and the growth with time. So these are the two research questions that came out of the workshop. What are the challenges? The first one is, what are the challenges, barriers, and limitations related to the practical teaching and learning of science? And we specified that it's for women, learners who are disadvantaged in low-resource environments, and learners who are vulnerable or have special needs. And the second question is about what innovative strategies can be used in the practical teaching and learning of sciences that can have an impact on the practice and teaching of science, again, in relation to these three groups. So part of what we'll be doing here today is, after this workshop, really trying to work on refining our research questions and our research design. So far we've spoken about it being an exploratory descriptive research design so that we have a clearer picture of what the problem is. I do understand many times when we sit down and talk, informally, we highlight quite a lot of things about what we think the issues are. But I think from this research, we want to really get a more clearer picture of what exactly is happening on the ground and how things can change. So we've employed a mixed methods design, research design, with quantitative and qualitative elements in it, and it's cross-national, that's across universities in Ghana and universities in Kenya. So, well, I won't speak too much about this. I know there are researchers here, so maybe you'd be interested in finding about that. The target population really is we're interested in students in each university. That's just a number, the 200 we might refine it. Then we're also looking at lecturers. We're looking at the technical staff to give the comments about accessibility. We're looking at the departments of higher education and research. We're looking at other stakeholders from the Ministry of Education, TSCs, TVET, and all these other stakeholders. So the research instruments, just a quick comment. I think Prof. Raphael will talk about it later on, he said, when he's leading the next session. The research instruments have been led, and we're very pleased about this, by Dr. Chris Kwao from the UCC and Prof. Raphael from the University of Nairobi. And Dr. Chris Kwao was taking care of mostly of the quantitative research instruments, and Prof. Raphael was leading on the qualitative instruments. And so far, these are sort of the instruments that we have and intend to use. The quantitative survey instrument with the students, focus group discussion with students. We have interviews with lecturers and interviews with stakeholders. I think, like I said, Prof. Raphael might give comments about those later. So part of what also the inter-university groups is doing is also looking at these instruments to see, are we getting the answers that we need about gender? Are we likely to get the answers we need about gender? The answers we need about technology, the answers we need about different aspects, and is there anything we've left out or anything we should include? So this is part of what we are doing. I think for me, that's just about it, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane D and Jane C. I don't know, Prof. Raphael, I don't know if you have any comment before we open it up.
I just want to thank Gen C and Gen D for a good job. I think it's very clear, the design is very clear. For the stakeholders who are here, for qualitative part, this meeting is part of it. We want to hear from you, your perspective and experience, particularly at the university level and at school level. That's why we have teachers from high school who are here. It's true, we have those instruments which we have set through a process which was very rigorous. And we are hoping through this discussion, we will be able to look back through our question and just to see how to find those questions. Remember, we are talking about science, teaching of science. And we cannot just look at teaching of science at only one level. We have transition. We normally see that the impact of teaching at the university level may be corrected by the lower level. Because if the lower level is well prepared, then the university will just pick from where they want to continue with that. Therefore, we will want to hear that experience, and from this experience, we will be able to pick what is missing out of the instruments we have. We can't talk about instruments now until we hear your perspective. Then we see how the perspective fits into the framework we have as per the questions which we have. So I think that's what I wanted to add. We need to hear from our participants how their perspectives are. Then we can actually be able to collaborate with what we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Raphael. Then colleagues, with that guidance, as Dr. Esther prepares herself, maybe we could open the session for interjections. maybe by way of questions, issues of clarification, or just the sharing of experiences as Raphael has guided. Let me know if there is any of us who may want to. Yes, Prof. Karibu.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to appreciate the presentations that have been made, and more particularly, I would like to make some comments on this. I think being from the gender of the female, and one who actually has young men in the house who are engineers, I look at them sometimes with a lot of awe. Why do I say that? Because of the element of attitude and motivation. Because I look at them and I'm like, what they can do, I cannot even do a little bit of it as a social scientist, you know, given that they are in the science area. And that, I think, it gets me to think so much about what is it about the female that actually makes the female feel working with the numbers and working with that level of critical thinking and problem solving is quite an issue. So I think the whole fact that you say, as you look at the instruments and the approach to use in finding out why the situation is as it is, the focus particularly on the attitudes and the motivations, I think for me is a very critical thing, yeah? Just to get into the mind of the girl, the mind of the female, and understand what is it that makes them feel, I can't do this. But like you said again, those who delve into it, again, are very good. The ladies, you know, the female. So I think that is a very good area of focus, and I'm sure you should be able, depending on the model of the interviews or whatever qualitative methods you choose to use, I think you should be able to get quite a bit that can help us and understand, especially from the different, we have the West, in Africa, the West and the East, and of course from the West we have the representation from the Open University of UK. Yeah, and I think again, now as an educationist, yeah, the delivery modes, again, I think that is quite critical. We may want to rethink, particularly for the teachers in the house. I'm also a teacher by training, and so I relate a lot. I worked quite a bit at high school level before I transited into university, and actually with those young minds, and particularly now as we transit into an age where the young people relate to these gadgets a lot, is there a way we may want to begin thinking that maybe what we are doing in our classrooms with the delivery modes, with the content that is available, the content may not necessarily be the challenge. The challenge could also be the delivery modes. Could there be something then we may want to think through as we collect this data that relates to the methodology that is being used? And given that we are talking about open, it is open what? Yeah, Open STEM Africa, yeah? Now that we're talking about Open STEM Africa, could there then be a way we are looking at this and saying we want, by the end of this particular study, to begin relating very closely, even as educators at whichever level of learning, yeah? Relating to each of these levels of education in terms of the way we deliver, and saying, is there a way then maybe teachers should be drawing away, yeah, from the more traditional methods of delivery to the more modern, and maybe where you also allow this child an opportunity to also think on their own. Those are just issues I'm thinking as we, you know, as a researcher, when you're going to the field, you sometimes also think about what is it that I'm anticipating as a way of responding to some of these issues. And it also helps you to think through the nature of data you're collecting as you collect it, so that by the time you get to your end game, you know how you're relating what is in your mind as the researcher and what you're getting on the ground, and how that plays into the nature of result that you anticipate at the end. I think that is what I want to say, and maybe as we continue talking, then we could say a little more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, we can pick on my brother and then Prof. as Esther gets ready. Yeah, keep it short, please.
Yeah, so thank you very much. My name is Dr. Boya from Teacher Service Commission. I want to thank the presenters for making it clear the scope of the research. I'm just wondering from the perspective of the Commission, how does research capture the differences that we have in our teachers' preparation at both the university and also the college level? Is there an opportunity for this research to try and highlight some of the issues that we experience at the classroom practice in regard to teaching and learning of STEM?
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much. My name again is Professor Anne Derito, Faculty of Education. Professor Caroline has, when you're talking about attitude and feelings, that has reminded me that for the first time after 68 years of the existence of the University of Nairobi, we have a first lady ever, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Professor. And I think this is one of the people that we need to interview, Professor Anyonje. First ever after 68 years, we have the first ever Dean, Faculty of Engineering.
That one is noted.
Yes, please note that. So I think attitude really plays a big part, but maybe because of the history, the African history. Girls, we are teachers, we are nurses, the attitude that we have always had. So I think, just as I've said about this professor, for the first time, breaking the glass ceilings, we need to change the attitude of the female individuals. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yes, sir?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Dr. Miheso. I've picked something nice from the presentation, especially about the virtual learning and partnerships at the universities. Just wondering whether you can cascade the same backwards to basic education, because there's a very big gap there. At basic education, STEM is broadening gradually. In primary and lower primary, you call it environmental education or activities. Then at lower primary, we call it science and technology. You come at, that is at upper primary, up to grade 3, it's environmental activities. Grade 4, 5, 6, we call it science and technology as an integrated learning area. But the problem is at junior school, there's no learning going on. Because there are no teachers at that level. We have integrated science comprising the pure science, physics, chemistry, biology, and health education. Then we have pre-technical studies, which has these technical areas, building, construction, aviation, put together with computer studies and business studies up to grade 9. This is now moving towards STEM subject areas. Even at grade 9, how they'll select to go to pure science at senior school is still ahead. And at senior school, we don't have a big issue because we have the pathways. Sports science, 15% of the learners are supposed to go into that pathway. STEM is supposed to pick about 60%. Then social studies about 25%. So my concern for the research is we cascade it backwards to basic education, because when junior school was domiciled in primary school, you realize there were no teachers in primary school who could handle these areas. We have 3-4 teachers in primary, in junior school, who are handling 9 subject areas. Resources are not there, there's no infrastructure. Books are there, yes. So they are reading the books. Even some are telling us the learners who are now teaching them. So we can cascade it backwards, the research, to know whether we are having right at junior school. At senior school, they are not there. At senior school, they are now in grade 10. The designs are there, and even they're online. And universities and other stakeholders have been asked to look through. They, at senior school, they take 7 subject areas, not a big issue. 4 of them are compulsory, then they take 2 from each pathway. But it's open, so if they take 2, they can select from other pathways. It's open and it's a nice one. So selection, are we prepared when you expect to get these learners in 29? What kind of learners are we going to bring to the universities? So if some research can be done on what is taking place, especially in junior school, public schools, I think I like it, because this idea of partnering of the universities, if we can partner at junior school, we can also teach, because why not have it as early as this and the virtual learning? Private schools are doing very well because they have the teachers, but we have a very big gap in junior school, because right now CPC is up to grade 8 this year.
Thank you, Dr. Mehason. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I can see 2 hands. Maybe I pick my immediate neighbor and madam, and then we can allow Jane to respond.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Onyango once again from the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. A lot about the authority is to do with the mobility of skills and qualifications. Skills and qualifications can only be mobile if they are quality and if they are competitive enough. So in my view, I would opine that the research thinks about, for example, how we can make our students more competitive through experiential teaching. I had somebody talk about that, experiential teaching by simulation. In my experience, when I taught out in secondary school and in college, Kenyans don't really believe in simulated experiential teaching, but I think it would really bring down the cost of teaching and enhance access and give more opportunity to the far-flung regions that are far away from our location. And then secondly, during my stay at the authority, noticed that there is so much interest in Kenyan education from neighboring countries, especially within East and Central Africa. It's a lot of interest, and I would like to bring that to your attention that if you are developing such a model for education, then you should think about beyond our borders. We are really encouraging education tourism. If cooperation is also meant to generate revenue, then that is one very huge revenue stream that we should be looking forward to. Many countries already have faith in the Kenyan system of education, and this would only provide them with an opportunity to come into our system. I also noticed Kenyan students, they are doing a lot of foreign education, on areas like STEM. A lot of our students looking for Ken Foster programs in the US. And unfortunately, those Ken Foster programs do not address our education and training requirements in terms of culture and environment. I thought education becomes very useful to our society if it is contextualized. That is something that the other systems do not do for our students from here. So that is something that you really need to think about, how to make this connect with our local situation. The other thing you should think about is how do we measure credits? And that starts from curriculum design. For example, at the authority, we believe that 10 notional hours add to 1 credit. And that works for an average student in the normal system. That is where the teacher is facing the student. How will it work where now this thing is distance, maybe virtual, online or something? The other area that we really need to think about is how we can, the confluence between RPL and distance learning. The two, if they can speak to one another. We are all aware that the academia, I'm sorry to put it that way, we don't have much regard for people who've learned skills through the other methods. Like for example, the traditional birth attendants, our mothers back at home, they don't have papers. We wouldn't pay them much, maybe 500 shillings for 1 delivery, something that a nurse would not accept. But look at it this way, they deliver children without much technical support. The nurses may not even be able to address some of the issues that the other people address but we still don't kind of like regard them. So we have to mainstream those marginalized sectors of skills to enable through this kind of arrangement. I think, thank you. So,
Thank you very much. Madam?
Okay, thank you. My name is Rose Mugudi. I'm a high school teacher. I teach chemistry. So in our school, what has helped us with the attitude change is the use of ICT. So use of ICT helps to give them some positive attitude because it is more exciting. Yeah? So our laboratories have screens, and you can go to YouTube and teach a particular concept. So when they are able to watch it and also see it in a TV screen, it becomes more exciting because sometimes the students tend to say that sciences are a bit boring, but now if you use ICT, they become more interested. The ICT also helps us in the laboratories so that we're also able to reduce the costs, because you don't have to do live experiments all the time. You can also do some experiments through the virtual lab. So ICT is a good thing.
Thank you so much. With that, colleagues, then allow me to invite Gen C or Gen D if there is any clarification that you may want to make.
I'll be very quick because Esther, you've been very patient. Thank you so much for all of those questions. I think I'll be very quick because those are questions which we could spend the next 12 months researching. But I will give some immediate responses and I'll be selective. I think to celebrate, I think the first female dean of the Faculty of Engineering, I think that's a great celebration to make. At the University of Ghana, then our colleague on the project, Elsie Kaufman, is head of the School of Engineering at University of Ghana. She is also the only female academic member of the school. And I think this idea of the glass ceiling and role models is a big aspect of what we can do. The idea of teacher preparedness, I think that's very important. I think we've been focusing a bit today on virtual laboratories, that's some of our conversation. But I am an educationalist, and in the OpenSTEM Africa materials, there is a huge suite of teacher continuous professional development, digital materials, to support this digital approaches to teaching and learning, and a program for heads of science in upper secondary. One of the things that has come in Ghana, and I invite just comments and challenges through today and beyond, is this idea of promoting professional learning communities or communities of practice. In other words, where the science department starts to look after its own development, its professional development in a school, in a kind of quite autonomous way. And that way, teachers are developed on-site, in school, in that context, with a leading practitioner who is the head of science. The question about junior schools and basic schools is a really good one. I mean, on a practical point of view, when this project started in Ghana, one of the reasons for focusing on upper secondary is because it is a really technology-based program. And it's the technology infrastructure which is at least partly in place in upper secondary and much less in place at basic education level. That's not an adequate response. But I think it's the scale of the challenge in moving those approaches down to junior school into basic education. But it is a challenge which I think is worth addressing. I think that's it. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate all the presenters. Thank you so much. Then with that, we invite Dr. Esther Kaduma to give us a presentation on Schools of Science Outreach Program. Esther has already told me that she will take 15 minutes. Karibu, Esther.
Thank you. Thank you, and maybe it's afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. I hope I can take the shortest time possible. I am very passionate about my program, but I will try my best. My name is Dr. Esther Kanduma. I am a biochemist, so I'm a woman in science, and I lead or manage the Center for Biotechnology and Bioinformatics. We are based at the Faculty of Science and Technology, University of Nairobi. I am a champion of women in science, and that is what has brought me to STEM outreach. And the program that I'm going to talk to you today is all about inspiring future African female scientists in the hope that we can enhance gender equality in science. So we target high schools, hoping that we can encourage a lot of girls as possible to pursue STEM courses, then pursue STEM careers and professions in future. So just to set the agenda, we want to remind ourselves the numerous, hindrances or problems that, STEM learning and teaching encounters. And I think in this room we are very privileged because we have policymakers, we have all manner of stakeholders and ourselves that can contribute or help overcome these challenges. And I'm talking about them because as old as many of them are, they still persist today. And in the center of these challenges, probably there are some things that we ignore, and among them is mentorship. So our students in high school really need a lot of mentors. If you're going to improve STEM learning, so the government can improve the infrastructure, the teachers can be equipped with the right skills, the learners can be motivated, but we have realized mentorship is also equally important. And then I want to talk about an issue we encountered because when we started doing this STEM outreach, we used to do it as mentors. So we would go to high school, present ourselves as successful women in STEM, that the students and particularly the girls can see us and aspire to become like us. So we would talk about our science careers, what it is that we do, our own professions, so that they can identify with them the career paths that we have followed, so that they can also identify a career path. So when we started, we realized that there are many other problems, so it was very compounded, and we felt that there are many angles that we need to tackle it, from, for us to be successful. So let's just keep in mind that, as you can see, in this part of the world, the challenges are many, really many. And until, for example, when COVID came, teenage pregnancy is a big problem. Early marriages, as a result, is a big problem. And that continues to be a challenge today. And then now in Kenya, with the 100% transition, we have very high numbers of students in high school. So I've gone round to many schools, from national schools to county, schools, and the challenges are many. The numbers, how to deal, what technology can we use to help our teachers deal with the high student numbers. So this is a big problem, something we need to keep thinking about as we move forward. And then because my program tries to focus mainly on encouraging, inspiring girls to pursue science courses that they may become future women in science, we just also want to keep in mind that it has already been raised in the room that we, women in science, really form a very small part of the professions that there are out there. And unfortunately, in this era of, science, digital, web, technologies, people tend to highlight, musicians, athletes, successful people. And then we find that nobody, brings forward successful women in science. And so many of our students in high school, even as they, are taught the sciences, they are taught the physics, the chemistry, the biology, they never think, that science as a career can, make you a celebrity. And that is already a big problem because that's the society that we are living in. So we have very few, professionals in science, and we wanted to make sure that in future, we really try to encourage the girls so that we can increase the proportions of women pursuing STEM. So we have to think about these problems. I have used myself as an example and give you just an idea about what it has taken me to get to where I am, and tell you that when I went through primary school, I lost, as we progressed to secondary school, there are many of us who didn't, really join the secondary school because, their parents can't afford to pay school fees. Okay? Then, of course, we have these socio-cultural norms in Africa. We know that, some Even where I come from Central Kenya, it's very near Nairobi. But some families really don't believe in, educating girls beyond primary school. So some of my schoolmates got married. Okay? Then there are those families that would say, because your brother is in, the same class with you, I'm sending your brother to school, you stay at home. And it's very common. Even these days, it's very common. Even as, really sub-peri-urban areas in Nairobi. So early marriage has always been a problem. We find that people, even in my village, those whose parents have not gone to school can say that they are sort of illiterate. They still don't value sending their kids to high school. And then, even for myself, I came to learn about some sciences when I got to the University of Nairobi. I had never heard of some science specialization. So we found ourselves here by default. The government admission system is that you're admitted to do a Bachelor of Science. When you come here, that's when you hear there is a science called geology on my campus. I knew zoology is the study of animals, but I never thought that it is taught as a subject. And that's the reality of the matter. We found ourselves here, but nobody gives us, really, what is it in this science? What is it, in terms of your future? Where can you go? What opportunities are there? And then now, having gone through the University of Nairobi and became a professional, then I have lost colleagues, especially ladies, because of the limited job opportunities. They are not, at least I got admitted through the university staff training program. I was employed very early, but I lost colleagues because when they graduated, went out there, they could not find jobs. So I'm talking about this because they particularly really make women drop out of science. And so that contributes to the leaky pipeline. And as we are thinking about having, in the Kenya that we want today, founded on, transforming the economy based on science and technology, we must be able to address some of these challenges. Even in this university today, mentorship. I have graduate students who are leaving for the year and they're still asking me, what is it in this biochemistry? It's not clear in their mind what future, that profession holds for them. And it continues to be a big challenge. So we have this leaky pipeline. We lose, professions along the way. So as much as we are building a solid foundation now in high school and improving science learning and teaching, we must try to seal the leaking pipeline. If we don't, we will still find ourselves here 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later with a 25%, 30, at maximum in many African countries of women in STEM. And this is not good. And we find these days, then as the social sciences are being promoted, even our boys also now tend to really keep up from the sciences because especially in this country, the opportunities for science are very few. And many times they are not as paying. They are not as paying as, those in business. They are not paying as, many other social science careers. So we have a challenge, and this challenge, we must all try to address it from all those manner of angles or, perspectives. And this is where, in 2019, I am a member of an organization based in the UK, the International Veterinary Vaccinology Network, and they were recruiting members in Africa to join the network. Then they could not find female vaccinologists. And they asked us, those of us based in Africa, to see whether we could, involve ourselves in a mentorship program. And that is how this African School Science Outreach Program was born. So they were trying to, have those of us who are members go out there, speak to the girls and see whether in future we can increase the ratio of women vaccinologists. So there is a pressing need to inspire and motivate high school girls to ensure a critical mass of women scientists are adequately represented in STEM, and especially in higher education institutions, but we want to see them sustain themselves through their career, in future. So in 2019, we had the pilot training of some, because for many of us who are pure lab scientists, we were not very much conversant with the public engagement. So it's the first time that we're actually being prepared to go out there and talk about the science that we do, and then present ourselves as the successful men in STEM, and the girls can identify with our specializations and then aspire to become like us. So in 2019, we had the pilot program. It was done at Precious Girls in Rirota. And our program uses a lab in a suitcase. So we have this suitcase that is packed with, some small, scientific tools, equipment, which we package in a suitcase and then take it, okay? As women in science facilitators, we take it to schools. So when we go there, we request for a lab space, then we set up an experiment. And we actually involve the learners in undertaking this science experiment. So in that process, as we do this hands-on experiment, they have an opportunity to interact with us. So, and whenever we have gone to schools, we always take an opportunity to do, mentorship talks, career guidance to the students as well. So this program, initially I said, the IVVN, the International Veterinary Vaccinology Network, donated this lab kit. They actually designed a biology experiment. It's on vaccinology. So when we go, we do vaccine testing with the students from the beginning to the end. And then we have introduced other things along the way that I'm going to talk about as we have tried to improve the program. So the experiment is designed in such a way that it actually excites the students about STEM, science. It tries to demystify. We do, if you come to my practical class, we do the same experiment we do at the university. It's the same one we try to do with the students. And we actually give them an opportunity to do their own RC, and we support them along the way. So we also wanted to strengthen and improve analytical skills so that they can understand some simple, most of them are chemistry, physics, and biology concepts, and then mainly influence that negative attitude and perception that science is difficult. It's something that they cannot do. And then they think about it as a very complicated, subject matter that, when you think about science, they're thinking about rocket science. Taking, space, ships. So we have tried to simplify it, and we actually demonstrate that it is very easy. So we try as much, we welcome male scientists if they are happy to come with us, but we try as many women in science of different background specialization to go so that we can present these career trajectories and the students can identify with them. We have tried to do it in a gender-responsive manner. We target girls' schools, but we have also gone to mixed schools, but we have not gone to a purely boys' school. So the program is active in several African countries. We are in Kenya, Nigeria, Cameroon, Zambia. We have had trainees in South Africa, in Uganda, and Ethiopia, but it's only active in 4 African countries, in Zambia, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, and in Kenya, and in South Africa. So I just want to give you a quick feel of what the lab in a suitcase experience is. So we'll begin by the women in science, packing, preparing the kit, and we pack everything in the suitcase, and then would take it to the schools. And the first thing that we do as we start our workshop, we usually ask the students to draw a scientist. So we give them a piece of paper, ask them to draw a scientist. So they will draw some images, and then we'll discuss with them. Here we want to test, their perception, their ideas of who a scientist is. And I can tell you, we have many girls who draw males, a man. Because for them, a scientist is supposed to be a man. So we would then now start deconstructing, their minds about who a scientist is, so that they can first have it in their mind that even them as girls, they can be scientists. So the interesting thing, we have engaged over almost 2,500 students. I have never seen any boy who has ever drawn, a girl, a female as a scientist. Then number 2, they also draw very old, scientists, the age. So there is another problem. So at that age, they never see themselves as scientists. So even those who draw females will only draw, because we ask them to put an age, assign an age to your scientists. So only when they see 40, 50, 60, and majority of them 70 and 80. Because in their biology textbooks, the scientists who are, really presented, Aristotle, they are very old. So they actually put the beard, okay, and the spectacles, and you can see the hair is not there. So how do you make a scientist out of someone who only identifies an old man, at 80, 70 is a grandfather, as a scientist? So that's the beginning of the workshop. And then after we make them now realize that, no, we expected you to draw yourself. In fact, when we finish this session, first session, we say, why did you brush your teeth in the morning? Why do you drink boiled water? Why do you have to eat, green vegetables? Then they discover that already they are applying scientific concepts. And so we tell them, we expected you to draw your beautiful you. Because you're already a scientist. Anytime you're able to apply this scientific concept, you're already a scientist. And then after that, because the activity that we are doing already was designed by someone who wanted to promote the science of vaccinology. And when we started this activity, it was during COVID time. So it made a lot of sense. We really educated them about infectious diseases. So we asked them to get into groups. We assigned them, a question, I think two questions actually. One of them is, what is an infectious disease? And what infectious diseases of animals or humans can be controlled by vaccination. And then they will discuss, we interpret the answers with them. And then after the group discussion, we teach them the skill of micropipetting. So in our suitcase, we have, molecular biology. These days, that's one of the new sciences. We have micropipette. So we set up a biology experiment where they utilize micropipette. So we first teach them a skill of micropipetting. Many of them are already doing pipetting, but they have never seen a micropipette. That can take a very small volume, like 10 microliters. Then after that, we take them through setting up a biology experiment where they actually we use more reagents. We only use lime juice and water to tell them they are testing for presence of either rabies. During COVID time, we will tell them that we are testing for vaccination against rabies. So we actually give them lime juice and tell them these are serum samples extracted from human blood, collected from people who we don't know whether they have been vaccinated or not. But you, the scientists, we want you to test them whether they have been vaccinated. And because it's a neutralization reaction, it will change color and they become excited that they can actually be able to test for vaccination when it turns positive. So they will set up the assays, then each of us is assigned a group and we support them along the way. Then we interpret the results, we help them calculate the vaccination efficiency so that during COVID time, we encourage them to get vaccinated so that we could also help or contribute to promoting vaccination as a way of controlling infectious diseases. After we finish that, each one of us then gets into a group and talks about their science. And I am a biologist who works on ticks. Ticks, are vectors of animal and human diseases. So I have models of my ticks I take with them. And because in Kenya we have a lot of communities where there are animals and the animals get infected with ticks, now they appreciate the science of ticks. And of course, I said any one of us will be talking about their science because all of us have different backgrounds so that they can identify with them. Then after that, we normally collect some feedback for us to be able, gauge, is it impactful, would they be interested, and how would moving forward, engage the school in future. Then beyond there, we have partnered with the Science Center, a CARO program. They do outdoor science activities, so we are now walking around with them in schools. They have many concepts in chemistry, in physics, so they come and engage the rest of the school. So the lab activity is only limited because of the gadgets we have to about 60 students at any one time. We normally do 2 sessions, one in the morning, each will run about 3 to 3.5 hours, so we only do a maximum of 2 sessions with 60 students each in any school. But when we are inside the lab, we have the rest of the schools being engaged in those outdoor activities by the CARO Science Center. And then we normally give participants certificates. And we have found that this is quite motivating to the teachers as well. So for spending a day doing these activities, they want to feel appreciated, so we normally print for everyone a certificate. And then I think I talked about mentorship. We realized that when we went into the lab with the 60 students, it was creating some tension in school. So because we are really well dressed and we have googles and we have gloves and we have lab coats, the rest of the students feel left out. And we were feeling, even the teachers have complained to us, that the principals only selected a few teachers to go in. So we decided that after we have finished with the lab activity, we can actually now address the whole school and then promise to go back and then get another lot that we can engage. So we have combined it with, career guidance to school. Sometimes it runs concurrently. Sometimes all of us can address the school, the rest of the pupils at any one time, either before or after the activity. And then now, many of us being research scientists, we have also realized that we can actually be able to pass on some of these scientific concepts by introducing more activities into the outreach. So what we are now doing, we are always constantly doing the science outdoor activities with a team from the Science Center in Karo. And then now we have introduced some agricultural projects. And we see this as an opportunity because what it has done is that the young ones now are able to be exposed to more science concepts, but they are also now realizing that they can also play a role in helping the country, be able to deal with some challenges that we have been having. One of them being food insecurity. So we have in several schools introduced those vertical gardens, and in the picture at the bottom, we have also now been able to introduce mushroom cultivation in many schools as agricultural project that the students can involve themselves in, but we also encourage them to take the skills back to their communities as well. So when they go, they can actually be able to set up those gardens at home, or they can be able to grow mushrooms at home. And another thing that we have always done in every school we have gone to is to encourage tree planting. So we always participate with them in tree planting. So beyond the schools, every activity that we have done in any county, we always identify a community group around there to engage. And so we have, as scientists, researchers ourselves, we have done quite a bit on engaging communities, because part of engaging that community is for us an opportunity for us to talk to the community about why they need to educate their girls. And then they can appreciate this scientific concept. And when their kids come home, then they can now, be able to farm that up. And it has really worked very well. So as part of that activity, I want just to report that we've hosted at the university through the program one school that had come from Kilifi. And the advantage of hosting a visit to our university is that it exposed these students to many more scientists on campus than ourselves going. So this is something we want to explore moving forward, that we can be able to establish a science outreach center in our universities so that the institutions can also now organize for the students to come to our universities. And we wanted to host one early this year, but it didn't happen for some reason. So when they come on campus, they get to meet more mentors than just, the limited number they are exposed to. So if I may highlight just some of the achievements that we have been able to do in Kenya, we have visited 29 schools across 11 counties. Through that hands-on experiment, we have engaged 2,734, probably about 750 students, 2,475 of them being girls, then about 300 being boys. And we have delivered those career guidance mentorship talks to over 5,000 students. And we have worked through our activities with at least more than 500 teachers by now. This program, since 2019, was celebrated in the Scottish Parliament as an innovation. It has been shortlisted for Nature Research Awards in 2020 and 2023. Then we managed to publish an article in Threads in Parasitology, at least to celebrate the month of women and girls in 2023. And our team, because of that involvement with schools, we've been awarded a TOS Elsevier grant, which we are doing climate action with schools. And this year, we are also now been given a grant by Grant Challenges Canada to involve the schools in mushroom cultivation and value addition, and that we are involving schools as well. So I just wanted to, we've been done external evaluation, and it's an encouragement that a lot of students really love the activity and the exposure that they get through the program. And at least all those we have interacted with, and especially girls, identify that they can become future women in science, and they see themselves as becoming scientists, and they really talk about it highly. then at least in terms of vaccination and infectious diseases, many of them gain knowledge. So I just wanted to highlight some of the feedback that we have received, for example, from the schools that we have engaged. Many schools we have gone to, when we leave, everybody wants to do biology. Now, all of a sudden, they realize that, it's exciting, it's a nice course, they can become, future biologists. So we have a lot of reports that, the years after we have left, many of them now wanting to do biology. And then the teachers also rate the program very highly, and they see it as potential in at least exciting the girls and removing that negative perception. Yeah, so in less than a minute, what they like most about the program is that they are able to do real science, then they write practical, hands-on activity of the program. Then they are very happy to see successful women in science. At least they rate the mentors and that activity of interacting with them. And then the fact that they can actually be able to carry a science experiment and get results and interpret them, they are very happy about that. So these are the teachers. We have had feedback from the teachers that, they also see it as an opportunity that, if you excite the students about science, they can actually love the subject, and many of them can then pursue the science in future. So just allow me 1 minute to talk about the learnings from that activity we've been doing for the last 5 years. So now we realize, and going through all these schools, that there is a big appetite and enthusiasm from the school for us to upscale and expand the activities, introduce more activities. Now it's more biology-based, a lot of vaccinology experiment in the core message, but now they ask for more. And then we also have been to schools that have no labs. We've been to schools that have no infrastructure to STEM. And many of the old schools, in fact, except the new schools that are being built when they are expanding, a lot of old schools don't have labs, don't have infrastructure. So they have a very small store stored with, test tubes, and that is it. They cannot teach STEM. And then we now see an opportunity to diversify and integrate, tech and ICT. And especially in helping the teachers deal with the high numbers, but also being able to teach more within, when you look at the curriculum, but also new concepts. So why shouldn't we now be able to, I liked what you're saying, because they have told us you can use, ICT, have at least these LCDs, then show them videos about, for example, simulation of how an immune cell kills, bacteria, and so on. Then we should consider improving the teaching skills of STEM teachers. So I want to talk about this really because many schools we have gone to, we have found very demotivated teachers. Demotivated teachers. They are dealing with a big number. They are not well funded. There are no resources. There is nothing they can do. And they tell us there is nothing we can do. You want us to improve, how can we do it? I have 800 students. How can I teach them biology? They are not equipped with anything. There are no resources. And some schools we've gone and we've been left on our own. So the science teacher doesn't care, is not interested, even doesn't want to hear what message we have. And we have now felt like as much as we are exciting the learners, when we leave and the teachers don't pick it up from there, it goes back to the status quo. Then opportunity to leverage on institutional engagement and support. And here, because we only have one kit in Kenya, that was donated by IVVN. And because when we did it initially, we used to do it ourselves, not as the University of Nairobi. It is just last year that we were able now to engage the institution. But we want, for example, our institution to establish a science outreach center where the students can come and to our faculty be exposed to all the science or the STEM subjects that are being taught from the campus. Then we are looking for at least other stakeholders. We are looking for the policymakers who would want to partner with the ministry. We would want to partner with the basic education department because we realize that it needs all of us. We have had a challenge accessing schools. So the new policy is that you cannot just walk into school and do whatever you want to do. You need to be cleared from the ministry. We had not had this problem previously. It's something that came up last year, and now even many schools we have not gone, because when we approach the principal says, bring me a letter from the ministry. and we don't have that letter. So we want probably to see how we can work up, either is it a memorandum of understanding or some collaborative agreement, so that we have an opportunity to be able to work together and see whether it's something that we could consider moving forward. Then we want to develop innovative strategies to engage both teachers and students. And since last year, November, we've been trying to apply for grants. We've not been successful, especially to have a teacher mentorship program where we can get them to develop the content, these hands-on activities. So one of the things that we've been wanting to do, but we are held back by lack of resources, is to develop different STEM kits for physics, for biology, for computer science, for chemistry, and then have the teachers develop that concept. So we are also trying to see whether, and we've discussed that with our university management, whether they can actually be able to offer a certificate course, either pre-service or in-service, for science teachers, because that would motivate them really to see an opportunity for them to upgrade their, at least teaching skills as well. So I want to just share some of the feedback that we received from, some of our students. So it is something that we need to think about, that it is only after they interact with us that they actually see that they can pass and pass well, and they even see themselves becoming international. So I have a negative attitude in chemistry, but now I am relieved. I think next year KCSE examination, I will get an A from my science, physics and chemistry. I think the ladies are my mentors. And this is the kind of message that we get from students who don't even believe in themselves. They have never seen themselves or considered themselves as scientists. So as I finish, I want to thank all the partners. We have a lot of partners that really promote women in science, and they're the ones who have been supporting us all along. So we have no funding grant for this activity. We rely so much on the small funds that we get support from. So I want to talk about this last image, because this one is the same science activity we set out in Kajiado. We had gone to engage some women pastoralists that we are working with. Then they asked us to mentor their girls, and we had just to set out that experiment in the open. And in this particular group of girls, it's then for the first time that they are able to do that kind of activity and see themselves as really, potential future scientists. So I leave you with that small clip about what happens during that our science biology. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. for that particular presentation. That was quite interesting. So colleagues, maybe I get guidance from Professor Nyonje. It's 8 minutes past 1 o'clock. I know we were scheduled to have another discussion by Jane, but I've consulted with Jane, and she has agreed that we can proceed for lunch and then pick it up later on. So maybe you could give us guidance.
Thank you. Colleagues, I think there's a lot of interesting stories coming out, more than what we bargained. And the story from from this presentation that we've been given by the presenter, I think is very insightful. She has just confirmed that lunch is not ready. We have one presentation to be made by Gen D, and we have another activity. We had planned that we go to the 5th floor for group photo. I don't know, and how long is lunch going to be ready?
You said we give them at least 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Then photo, then lunch.
I don't know, how long is your presentation, Jen?
I was suggesting that we move it until after lunch and then see if we have time, because I think if that sounds like the best use of time,
right.
I'm fine with that. It will take a little while to set up because we're trying to.
Oh, great. So what I'll suggest is this: that we walk, we go to the 5th floor and have a group photo. Then we can walk back. When we come back, I think lunch will be ready. We'll have to reorganize our presentation for our afternoon, But once we come back, I don't know whether you need to make a comment, 1 or 2 comments to her presentation. But I think we can start it when we come back from lunch. That you have your comments for the presentation that we've had, the 2 presentations. We can actually make comments and then proceed to other ideas. I know members need also to stretch. We can just walk. We have a group photo and come back. Then we'll take lunch. I think. How many minutes? We take about 40 minutes for lunch, then we come back. We shall actually be talking as we do all this. But I want to thank you for your patience. So we just go, and then when we come back, we will have our lunch.